Hey guys, how's it going? Ghostly Richard today, and today we're going to be installing a M.2 hard drive. So the first thing that you're going to need to do, if you've already preloaded your system, is quickly open it up. Mine has side posts. Depending on the age of your case, you might not have side posts. And then after you do that, you would just pick it up and take this one out of the way. Put it off to the side. After you've put that off to the side, ground yourself if you can against your case, and of course make sure everything's unplugged. You don't want anything processing power or causing any power. Next thing is to, if for me, you can see my M.2 port is actually under my graphics card. So I'm gonna have to actually remove my graphics card to do this. So first power, second power, next power, and next power. Put these two off to the side. Next, I need to pull out mine because I don't have a quick disconnect case. If you do, you would flip up your quick disconnect. I do not, so I will be undoing this screw and putting my graphics card off to the side. So when you're looking at this, push down. When you're lifting your graphics card out, it'll be harder to see, but it'll be on the side. You'll just press down on it and it'll let go of this hook, and then you can lift it out. Try to not, if you have an exposed board on the back, don't leave it on the back. I like to put it fans down because the fans are plastic. And yeah, so just put it off to the side. Once you do that, the next thing that we're going to have is we'll have these two right here. Or these three screws. So loosen that one, and that one if you have this board. If you don't, yours might be exposed just like this, and you can totally just slide your M.2 in here. If you don't have your posts, you will need to go into your motherboard box and get a standoff and a post, or you'll have to purchase them from your local hardware store when you get this. I have them inside because I always keep my motherboard box. So let's take these three screws out. If this is what you have, if you have a cooling heatsink for your M.2, pop these three and then we'll get it underneath. Once you've determined which port you're going to use on your M.2 hardware here, see they've got one for like a mini, medium, and another couple sizes. Well, I know I'm all the way out here. You will have little stanchions like so. These little posts, make sure you put the post in first. Do not put the M.2 in and then put the post on top. Don't ask me why, but some people have done that. So once that's in there, next thing that you're going to do, and you have the post down, you're going to take your M.2, pop it out of the package. You can't really screw this up at all because it only slips in one way. It's got a little tooth and a massive tooth. Slide the little tooth into the little tooth, the massive tooth into the massive tooth, and make sure it's completely countersunk in, and so that way our screw is going to line up. After we sink it in, tie the screw on. Once you've tied your screw in there, and don't be scared, if you slide it in and it's sticking up a tiny bit, it's okay. Just press down on it a little bit and tighten it on. Just make sure you have that little post in there so that way it's on it. Next thing is, if you have a motherboard that has cooling like this, make sure you peel off this. There's like a thermal area underneath here that's going to stick to your M.2 to keep it cool. If you want to, you can take the tag off of your M.2 if you really want to, so it's right on the chipset to keep it cool. You don't have to. If you really wanted to, you could just put this on top, but for best cooling, you take it off. Once you peel that protector off and you peel off the sticker, time to line it up the best you can. First shot, like that. And I'm not going to actually put mine down yet because I want to get the first screw in, but I like to get the first screw kind of threaded and then the second screw kind of threaded, then drop it and get that third one in. That way the thermal kind of substance on here lines up perfectly and sticks right to the chipset. After you've tightened them all in, let's just grab your graphics card, slip it straight down, and it'll lock back in. Put your powers back on. Put your screw back in, and what we're going to do after that is, before you put your side case on, we can always test it first. So that is just plugging in your HDMIs and a mouse and a keyboard and your monitors. Start it up. make sure that it's reading the M.2. If it's not reading it, it's because it needs to get partitioned. I'll quickly show you how to do that after I put my graphics card back in and plug in some monitors. So if you have your brand new drive in, you can actually just go here to search with Cortana, and you can actually just type in disk management, I think it is. Create or format a hard disk partition. So if you click right here, you'll see you must initialize this before, and that's disk number 4. Press OK. So you're going to see this new one right here. This would be yours. And we would just simply we double click on it, or new simple volume, next. And it's good. Just make sure it all lines up, next. Assign a letter. So I'm going to just call it, let's just call it the M drive because it's M.2. Next. NTFS, name the volume if you want to. You can call it M.2 for the sake of it. I don't know if it'll let me put a capital M. Perform a quick format, press next, finish. It's going to say formatting, and then after it's done, this will be live. Boom. And now, if you go here, you can now see it will be live right here, M.2. So from here, now let's say you're like, you know what, but I want my operating system on that. So the next thing that you would need to do is come over here, go to partitionwizard.com. You'll get Mini Partition Wizard free. Just press download. It'll come up. My internet connection's pretty quick, so it should finish up here quick. But either way, I'm gonna let this download. I'll open it up and show you that after. Once you've got the program, just open it, click yes, English, unless you're some other language. I accept the agreement. Sure. Yep. Yeah, that all works, except for this. I don't want to participate in nothing. No, I do not want McAfee because that's garbage. Install. Just let it do its thing. Oh, look, we're done. So the next thing we're going to do is clone our C drive, our C drive onto our M.2. This process, make sure you don't have any programs running that you need to be saving anything from, because chances are it's going to have to restart. So as you can see here, welcome to cloning. So we want to clone, and this is where it's handy to know which drive is which. That's my YouTube drive, so no. And then this right here is probably going to be the drive right here. Yes, it is. So there's that, and this is my rendering drive, right? Yep. So this 119 gigabyte one right here is the one that I want to clone. So I'm just gonna, or 111. You can tell because it kind of tells you everything right here about the drive, and like I said, it's pretty easy to tell which one's your main drive, because this is my media drive, that's the M.2. So drive number 2. It's probably easier for you. I just have a lot of hard drives in this thing right now, and I can also tell because it is the 840, which I have it backed up on. So after we do that, we press yes, this is the drive that I want to copy. Next. And it's going to say, where would you like to clone? Well, I'd like to do it on the M.2. I want that to be my new C drive. So I'm going to press next on that. It says all data will be destroyed on the M.2, which is fine. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes. It's going to tell you how much space it's going to have and how much space it's going to leave you with. And that is basically it. Just make sure that it all lines up. So once we've done it, you can choose actually copy without resizing the disk or fit partitions to the entire disk, which is what you really want to do. Make sure it's completely done and over and it's all allocated and stuff like that. All right, press next. It says to boot from the new disk, please configure your BIOS settings. Make sure your new disk is configured. We will do that afterwards. I'm not too worried because I'll show you why afterwards, but let's just hit finish. After this, you're gonna come up here, press apply. After you press apply, click yes. It's gonna start doing its thing. At one point, if it notices programs are open, what it's gonna actually do is ask you to restart your PC. It's probably gonna ask me anytime now, so I won't bother turning it off. But when it asks you to do that, I would suggest pressing restart. It goes into like a boot BIOS screen, which you will see if it asks me to do it. And that boot BIOS screen is actually a faster way of doing it, and make sure that no programs interrupt it right here. So it's going to ask you to retry or restart. I always say restart because it is the fastest way. I'm just going to leave the camera on so that way I can show you guys what it's going to look like after it restarts. It opens a whole nother menu. So there's your BIOS. That's where we'll change stuff afterwards. Not right now though, later on when we restart the PC. So it's gonna go to this Republic of Gamers. For you, it might be something else. And there, it's loading the engine, loading Partition Magic, and look at that. So you're gonna see copy completion ratio. This can take quite a while depending on how big your C drive is. So what would I suggest you do? Leave this and let it do its thing. Once it gets to 100, it's gonna boot your PC. So just wait for it to do that. Wait until it gets to your home screen. Other than that, do not touch your computer whatsoever. Once you get to this point where it's asking you to log in, you can actually just press here, and then you can either press restart or shut down. If you press shut down, just wait for it to turn off. And well, it's already shut down. Next, you're gonna power it back on. Then you're gonna start pressing the delete button. Depending on how quickly your computer boots, you need to do this to get into your BIOS. So we can choose our boot device. Now, if you go to boot up and you are not getting anything, you're like, oh man, I'm freaking out, what do I do? Go in and your old main C drive, disconnect it and leave the M.2 in, but disconnect your old main C drive. So in my case, I just pulled out the drive. This was an extra drive I had in there that I'm actually gonna be putting into a laptop. So I'm gonna keep this off to the side. But that being said, this 840 was my old one that I had inside my computer that I had just running my operating system. And this is the one that I was replacing. So I just disconnected it because it will no longer be in use. That's why I did 1,000. And then after I do that, I would just press power. And then now this will solve your boot problem. You'll see that it instantly comes up. I would suggest pressing delete right away. See how it says press delete or F2. All right, so there we go. You can see your RAM status, and here's your hard drives, your rapid stored technology, yada, yada, yada. Now, another thing for you to keep in mind, when you are doing this, depending on your motherboard, it will turn off some of your SD or your SATA slots. So you know the spots where all your hard drives are plugged in on your motherboard, all those little plugins. I'll point them out after, but those little SATA ports, if you have something in 1 and 2, usually depending on the size of your M.2 or also the speed of your M.2, it will actually disable 1 or 2 of them. Now, with the motherboard I use, what it actually does is disables one of my PCIe expresses. So it leaves my graphics card one alone, but I have a secondary PCIe Express and it just disables that, or vice versa. And it's actually a good method just to disable the PCIe Express. Some motherboards you will have to check your manual or check online, but it'll tell you right away what you need to do if you want to be able to change the different options. Like, let's say you want your PCIe Express, but you want it to disable 2 of your SATA ports. You can actually do that through your BIOS. Now, that being said, these are your boots. So you can just drag and drop which one you want to be your boot drive. So you can see the Intel has the boot manager, boot everything. So it's your only boot priority. But you can always drag this to the top so that way it knows. And as long as it's got that, you're all good. Now, the reason why I'll tell you to drag this to the top is that way if you want to plug that drive back in, then it'll look at here. But it can still cause conflicting issues. What I suggest you pick up, if there's anything that you need off that drive ever, is one of these little SATA cables, like so. And what this does is if you plug it into a USB port, you can access that drive while the computer is on. So you just plug it in, computer will recognize it. You can go through and access that drive if there's any files on there for some reason you want to check on. What I always like to do now is, say this 840 right here, I'm actually going to keep this off to the side. And the reason why is I'll take this drive and now I have a backup of my entire operating system. So that way if something ever happens, you get crypto hacked, who knows, something happens to your PC and everything is useless, you haven't been backing up properly, or maybe the whole drive is gone, you have at least your operating system and everything backed up on a singular drive. That's the good thing about cloning a drive. Anyways, I just thought I'd go into depth with that, show you that it is worth having something like this to look back on and to keep, and to also go into the fact that it can disable either 1 or 2 of your SATA ports. If you're using a laptop to put this M.2 into, it could just disable the other hard drive port altogether. You never know until you plug it in and you find out. Or you, of course, use Google. Google's your best friend, and type in your motherboard model number and whatnot, and it will tell you right away. And if you don't know your model number of your motherboard, come into your BIOS and it'll be right in there. Other than that, I can see in here, this is all good. If you switch to advanced mode, there we go. This is where you can tweak a lot of things, like we'll see if we can find the M.2 tweaker. Again, I'm not looking to change it, but you can do that through here. Let's do here. It's finding both my other drives. Advanced, it might be onboard. Either way, the problem is I haven't looked much into doing it this way. Hyper HD USB M.2 configuration. So here, right here, you can see it's right here. It should auto do it. I know that I've got ×4. So if I go to ×4, it actually, sorry, this is for my M.2-2. So it already knows PCIe or SATA. It's on auto, so it'll just leave it. So I'm just going to leave it there. But if you wanted to change this, you could switch this to SATA mode, and SATA would automatically get your port disabled rather than having it disable your other one. And as you can see here, it'll tell you will be disabled. It'll tell you everything that you need to know, but we aren't going to do it that way. So we will leave it like that, and then I'm just going to press exit because I don't actually need to change anything on here. If you are going to be changing your boot priority, then you would have to change that. Either way, exit without saving. Okay. After I do that, it's just going to boot my computer regularly. Nice and fast boot times, of course. If you don't even have this screen popped up, then it'll be even quicker. And again, if you want to just double check, one thing you can do is right click on Start, go to Task Manager, and if you do that, hit Performance, and you can see how much of your disk spaces are being used. This is my M.2. It's saying 13% of it is being used right now, and that's just because it's doing its full loadout right now. And if I hit Google Chrome, loading right away, YouTube, everything's just loading right away. All good stuff. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Press like if it helped you out and subscribe for more.